All right, hopefully this is live once again, and it's in full crystal clear HD Amazon Choice cable quality. All right. Jabram, you were saying you reinstalled Houdini and Redshift yesterday to get Unreal. It's a pain. Yeah, it's been a pain of many software installs, reinstalls, and stuff like that on my end. But yeah, so I can't do it today, but eventually my goal is be able to reboot and go into Windows to do some things. Like EmberGen, I think with Axiom, the sparse GPU solver, I could do that with on the Windows side as well, and so, some software packages, or maybe even Unreal or Unity, and do some stuff on Windows. But yeah, we're gonna go into pick up that. Where did it go? The procedural growth pachylimbic stuff that I was doing. I think this one's it. Just kind of continue on with it. There was some things I had figured out. I did post about it on the Discord, but I just wanted to do a proper continuation of it. So one thing that I did figure out. Oh, Unreal works well on Linux? Is it, was it easy to set up? It might have changed recently, but I remember looking into it a few years ago, and people gave warnings about trying it on Linux. All right. So we're going to get back into this file. We got the kind of growing stuff, and one of the problems, the biggest issue we ran into was just became very slow to display the results. Became buggy with this pachylimbic stuff, with updating the frame intrinsic, the ABC frame intrinsic, and sometimes it didn't update the growth or stuff like that. Worked okay, a few tricks to get running, a few gotchas. As long as you follow the directions, it's okay. Yes, I don't know. I might still stick with Windows for it. I don't know. Some game dev apps will only run on Windows, but I want to branch into doing some more stuff like that, and hopefully kind of some real time, maybe somewhat in the near future, not immediately, but could be fun to try some of that stuff out. Z8 editing, how's it going? So we'll just step back through the start of this scene. We did the tube, go to fog or gas or smoke or whatever, just density, so we could scatter points within the volume or inside of the shape. And then did this wrangle snippet here, going from bottom to top, just to basically kind of do this gradient from relative bounding box based off of the y coordinate, the y component, and then randomly deleting more points on the bottom, but keeping more on the top. And then this gamma, it's kind of like image contrast or image gamma or whatever, similar idea. We do that, and then the Plexus Effect to connect all the points, and some microphone noise. What kind of, nothing major, kind of noise is it? Just like room tone? Player 2, thank you for the 3 months. It's been, time is flying by in the lockdown period. I appreciate your continued support, as well as the Lamborghini giving me the model for that. Something like a phone or something near the microphone. I might need to redo some of my cabling stuff. Have too many electrics in front of me. I tried to move something, maybe that fixed the interference. I don't know. I'll have to look at the recording afterwards or whatever. But yeah. All right. Yeah, so we'll keep going. So we do the Plexus Effect, just connect adjacent points. This Plexus Effect is named after like an After Effects plugin or whatever. Sorting the point order by the height so that we could group the bottom point or the lowest most point. We know that that will be 0 after we sort by the height. And then this find shortest path will start your growth and draw curves to each endpoint or anything that isn't the start point, essentially. Doing Plexus in 2012. Really interested in motion graphics. Yeah, it was that. And then there was also, if you were ever using this processing, they did a similar effect. I don't know, like the trend kind of started in the programming computer graphics community, and then the After Effects plugin brought it to the masses. We do Plexus. It's a multinational corporation. Plexus Effect, After Effects. But yeah, this is the same idea, but in 3D, you could do all kinds of different stuff, but yeah, just based off of proximity, connect points with this. This is meant for building constraints with RBD, but yeah, nearest neighbor. You get a right click or unlock it or go in here and see they're doing PC find radius and some fancy functions or whatever to build the lines, but yeah. And then this one here, I'm just resampling with subdivision curves or subdivision algorithm so that the branches get spread out a little bit more. You could do similar things if you just do convert and then convert to like Bezier or NURBS curves. You can do similar interpolations. You could also play around with the U order, I guess, in some cases, and then resampling that back to polygons, and you could get some different, I don't know, somewhat organic or data trees or something like that. But yeah, this is how we were building the plant, and then I did an animation here using prim UV to expand the lines or move the points, slide them along themselves pretty much from frame 1 to 24. So I'm working at 24 frames a second, so just 1 second of animation for the growth. And then I figured out, like I did some research, I posted about it on the Discord, but figured that it was better to cover it here. And basically, if we just switch to a ROP geometry output and use just BGO, I could keep using, I'm just gonna move everything to a new directory before I start saving geometry. But I figured out that using the packed disk sequence, everything runs a bit more smoothly compared to the packed Alembics and updating the intrinsic file frame. This is the 27th. Just call this 6. So we just want to kick 24 frames out to disk, 1 second, and save it. I guess I should name this plants 01. So I use the operator string, the $OS. Do you have socials? Disconnected TV, I do. I don't have it advertised that well. No worries about the caps lock. If you do YouTube, you could do that. I think on the stream panels or below the stream, in the about section, or the bio section or whatever, And then as well, if you just go to my website there, in the bottom right, there's links to my various social media presences. We'll keep going here. So yeah, I just name this. RopGeo outputs a sequence of geometries. It usually does, like I have it set here, valid frame range is doing, if you just do current frame, then it will just do one file. I'm doing frame range, and then the $OS is operator string. It's evaluating to the node name. Operator string is just a fancy programmer way of saying the name of this node, the name of this operator. And then $F4 will make a new name for each frame. So we get our sequence of geometries for the growing plant. No worries. I feel like with Twitch, you just need to promote as much as possible. It's easy for things to get missed or whatever just because they're UI or all that stuff. There's not super big advantages. So Ziad Editing is asking if there's any advantage using RopGeo over file cache. There isn't a ton. Basically, if you look at the file cache, it's using the ROP inside. So it has a few more nodes and stuff like that for convenience. It just depends. So with this, I could move over to another tab, do packed, set my loading options or whatever, but for this case, I decided just to rebuild it, kind of like I had been doing with the Alembic workflow. So I didn't use the file cache because I started with Alembic, and that doesn't work as well with the file cache. So now with this file node, can just link it like this. If you don't want this, like this $OS is no longer valid, so you could do the op name, and then point that to the relative path. And then it should be able to load the file. Let's take a look. All right, it worked. We might want to switch to the last frame just so we have something that's grown. But yeah, so in this case, I decided like sometimes it's a bit more clear as to what's going on if you don't use the file cache. Like you're explicitly only saving or writing geometry with this node, and then you're explicitly only bringing stuff in. So the file cache is a good convenience, but for this kind of tutorial or this recording, I figured it just made things a bit easier to follow along. So then with this, I'm loading in a packed disk sequence and crashing my Houdini. So need to restart with that. The classic combination. The classic crash my Houdini command. Houdini crashing's like bread and butter. Yeah, so I think let me resize windows again. Still a little bit. So it might be that packed disk wanted to keep everything as like a $F4. Let's adjust that. Save it, put it back into the directory. And we'll switch Oof. Is it still crashing? God damn it. All right, let me, I don't know if it's this specific version of Houdini. It might be just like the expression that I'm using. All right. So I'm just in manual mode. Let me just try doing it like this, maybe. All right, it worked. I don't know, maybe it didn't like that expression. It was throwing it off. So yeah, very unlucky so far. Yeah, it's plagued by issues. So with a Limbic, we were using something that was the ABC frame intrinsic, and then packed disk sequence uses something different. It's called the index. So if I look, should be able to find it. Where did it, okay, here it is. So just this index, and with the ABC frame, it was actually the time in seconds, but this is the frame number of the like BGO that you want to load. And then you could see with this wrap mode is set to cycle, so that handles just like how the frame will loop or the sequence index or whatever gets updated. So you could do like clamp, and then it would just stop. And then I think that wrap mode is another intrinsic. So you could as well like update that or change that depending on how you want your instances to come in. And then instead of updating here, ABC frame, you should be able to change this to index, and we just need to accommodate with age because that was in seconds before. If we multiply it by 24, then we could be converting from seconds to frames. So I'll get rid of this split. Before I was hacking to kind of keep the frozen ones, but I think we should be able to get around that. So yeah, now everything will play very quickly. Amazing. So this transform, I was just rotating to align for copy, stop. Alkama, how's it going? Good to see you back in here. So yeah, this, with the copy to points, it just prefers for things to be aligned, like the z-axis is the up axis. So yeah, again, we're just copying to all the points and then updating the ABC frame after it's been copied to do the growth. Amazing. So yeah, just doing those few steps, instead of using the packed disk alembic, just using packed disk sequence seems to be better. So do read packed disk sequence. Hello all, looks cool. Missed a couple of streams. Is this a combination? A continuation? Yeah. So still just kind of organizing some stuff. If you go to the Discord, what's going on here? Stream archive. I believe, yeah, it's not super old, but it's this procedural growth spread. So that's a YouTube, and then this is the file that I started with. Actually, this is the file, and this was some notes about the tweaks or whatever. So yeah, the idea with this is it's kind of like combining a bit of interesting like workflows or tips or whatever. Oof, see some flickering there. All right. So modifying the intrinsic attribute of the packed geometry like this, so you can basically after you copy it and distribute it, you can still change the growing state, like the amount of growth, and then it's quicker than doing it like building all of these from scratch, because you're just loading them as instances essentially, and then you can just change the frame range, the frame of the instance that you're loading. So it's pretty cool. So one of the things I wanted to do is update the growing method and the growing geometry. I had some geometry, this rock, scanned rock. So I was gonna reconfigure things to grow on this nice rock. So I'll kind of cover the growing process again with that. I think I just need to rotate this 90 degrees, get into the Houdini negative 90, get into the Houdini coordinate space. Yeah, so we should be good. So for the growing process, again, just sorting to start, like have a proximity or the start point. And then doing this distance along geometry to kind of store or keep the growing animation or the gradient. So just build that again. I think, let me, trying to think if there's a better way to group. I think the sort method is pretty good. So yeah, this, I'll just say group start point. Then this is going to be start. I'm going to move it over to points. We're hunting this live. What were you hunting, Luxor? So this start point, we just want to start it to 0. And it turns out that point number 0 is somewhere over here. We could use that. All the stuff on the Instagram made from scratch. Yeah, most of it's Houdini stuff. Yeah, if you have questions about any of this stuff, feel free to put them in the Discord or something, or maybe at the end of the stream, talk about some of it. You have some talent. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to, some of the stuff we've done on stream that's on the Instagram, like the skulls, that one was from a Cool Zone, a Friday art kind of stream. So using this sort node, and then sorting by proximity to point, this will let you decide where point 0 is. Scared the shit out of, was it too loud? Is the alert sounds too loud? It's a little loud. Sorry about that. This is the deep fried alert. All right, so I lowered it to 10 decibels. Let me try a test. Is it better with that one? My music might be super quiet. Can you hear it now? Lowered another 15. All right, let's give it another test. How are my levels? Oh, it's not changing? I might need to try. Oh, it changed? All right. All right, we'll keep going. Sorry about that. So yeah, we're grouping 5 mas. Live mas. Sometimes what I'll do is use a sphere and then link it to this proximity to point coordinate. So I'm sorting here to basically decide where point 0 is, and then grouping 0 as the start point. But the unfortunate thing is you don't really get a handle to move, like a display handle to move this point around. So sometimes what I'll do is use a sphere, because you get a nice kind of move, scale, I don't know, all kinds of things with it. And then I'll just link the center point here, copy parameter, and then paste relative references. And then if you go, I have my viewport here set to show the display operator. Basically I do that because I don't want other nodes to cook. Like if you don't have your details view open, you can click on all the other nodes and it won't trigger them to cook or update. But in this case, if you want to be able to click on it, you just have to make sure you have show current operator set. And then can see, should be able to see like point number 0, and it should update. So you'd see it. I guess I when I'm clicking off of it, it goes away. But you could also color it. You just do the start point, set it to red. Yeah, so this way it's, I don't know, a little bit more procedural, Houdini workflow or something like that. But yeah, sometimes I'll do this as just like, use a sphere as a, we'll just call this start locator. All right. So bunch of fancy stuff just to decide where your start point is, or to group a specific point based off of proximity. Basically, the nearest point to this position will be our start point. So I might just move it to be closer to the top, just a little bit more like interactive or artist friendly to set things up this way. And then I was using distance along geometry. So based off of that same start point, this makes the distance attribute that's kind of like a fall off, starting at 0 and just incrementing based off of the surface, the distance along the surface. You use edge, there's other metrics to basically measure this stuff by. But usually I've found the surface gives you pretty good results. All right. And then scattering points, so this is going to set where our algae or our plants are. This will be scatter plant positions. Then I was doing some fancy stuff here to remap, kind of add noise to the distance measurement, remapping to animate the growth process, and then I ended up having to do some kind of swizzling or rearranging of the vectors to get things lined up the way that I wanted to. So you could just start with this remap to kind of visualize what's going on with that. I'm creating an age attribute that gets used by the plants or to update the intrinsic of them, and then I'm visualizing it here with the color. So 0 to 1 is kind of like ungrown or unanimated, to 1 is fully animated or fully updated. And then this, I believe Steve was the one who suggested it, but it's a good trick to have up your sleeve. Just adding some noise or distortion. You might want to update the element size for this. So you'd do some really cool, just breaking up, like before I was doing this, it's just a very smooth, like you could kind of hand animate this if you wanted to, but adding this distortion to it, maybe less amplitude. Let's take a look. You just get a more interesting kind of like infection, creeping kind of growth or something like that. All right. So then I was also randomizing the p-scale. Could maybe do that, but for right now, we're gonna keep it out of the chain. I'll just copy this other stuff over. So randomizing the N direction, setting the up vector attribute, and then swapping N with up. Just that's the way that the copy stop is expecting it. So another thing I want to make sure, yeah, it looks like this has a normal vector or normal attribute. And then with this scatter node, the points will inherit their directions. And then this is using the up vector. But before we do that, I think I might actually in this case want to randomize the up vector. I'm just gonna wire stuff up and see what it looks like. All right. So these things are a little too big, but it could look cool. And then I think our directions are kind of messed up. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. So I think in this case I want maybe to randomize an up vector. And just test things with a lot less points. So it looks like these aren't properly aligned with the surface right now. So the thing that I'm trying to do, you could also visualize it. Sometimes I'll do it this way. If you just do file node, switch it instead of default to def axis. This is a little origin nomen or whatever. It's still in the same like geometry install directory of your Houdini, so I can still load it. But yeah, this is a good way sometimes to just visualize your scattered like coordinate system or orientations if you have to debug things. So we could take a look without doing any of this business. Looks like this X stuff is still kind of rotated in a different. Let me take a look here. We have a normal. So these scatters will use the Z direction as it. And then I think, let's see if it works. Yes, I think that's what I want to do in this case. So I can get rid of that other business. So the up vector, I'm basically using that to rotate stuff, but keep the same direction that it's pointing in, if that makes sense. So you'd see as I'm changing, spin goes brrr. So as I'm changing it, the seed, you would see Z is always aligned along the normal. If I rotate 90 degrees, get rid of the scale for a second. If we want Y to be up, then we're basically using the up vector to just say spin randomly, but the normal direction will make sure that it's still aligned in the same space. So you probably go back, change the scale back, bring the plants back in. So yeah, then the idea with this, just spin using up vector. Normalize distance from origin as the normal. You could do it, yeah, I don't know with this case because it is the rock. Yeah, I mean, you could do that. There's other things. I'm visualizing the wrong thing. There's other things you could do as well. Sometimes I'll do this, like blur. Yeah, it might kind of poke itself too much. Let's take a look with this one. So, yeah, the blur, it's kind of slow in this case. But this, it's kind of hard to tell because this is still showing the normals. You generally use this with P, but you can as well use it for normal. I might need to promote my normals to point attribute. But yeah, that could prevent things from sticking itself. Let's take a look. So just do Vertex Split. Promote the normal to point attribute. So this, I think, has a similar effect to what you're thinking about, is like an average, is a similar idea as like the average normalized position. It's somewhat easier. It's a bit slower though, because it's like pretty heavy geometry or point count or whatever. But yeah, that's a good tip. So yeah, the RH2 was basically, let me just scale these normals down a little bit to make it easier to see. So basically in these concave, kind of folded, creased areas, the plants would poke themselves, or the growth direction, like it would be sticking through itself too much. So the more that we blur the normal, the more things will kind of unfold to bend outwards. So it just helps fix that kind of stuff. It's useful for grooming as well, or workflows, anything you're like scattering points or geometry or stuff like that. There's a node for that. Yeah, it's easy to, I don't know, like even with this, we have this smooth, there's several nodes for that. It's kind of one of the pitfalls of Houdini, is that you get overwhelmed with too many nodes. I think I've spelled this wrong, right? I don't know, maybe that's right. But yeah, we could visualize. Might be a bit slow because it's doing a bunch of calculations, but just changing this, because our plants are so big, they'll just get averaged. Well, the problem with Houdini is that there's too many features. Everybody has its own. The X form. The X form is an old school kind of thing. So in older versions of Houdini, the default name of it used to be X form, and I just kept that. Yeah, it's a bit of a back in my day kind of thing. All right, I might do a null, because the smooth is useful for smooth normal is useful for scattering and everything, but we actually want to like visualize or render the rock model. We don't want to do it with smooth normals. So this is kind of like a useful output. Virtual gardening. Algorithmic botany. Yeah, then I also have some scripts on the null that I use sometimes to like trigger, or it's like a macro for making a object merge, or like a fetch. Now we should be able to merge this stuff together, and can go back to the super high point count. Look at that. Furry, tumbleweed style rock. We might want to make these even smaller. So we were doing some randomization of the p-scale before. I might do it again. But yeah, there's actually, I think this website, Algorithmic Botany, is kind of like digital gardening. I think they have some papers or recent. This Algorithmic Beauty of Plants. This is a really good thing to read or whatever if you're interested in growth, plant growth algorithms. I think it does like some L systems. There he is, the god. But yeah, this covers a lot of stuff. Pretty cool. Get lost in it. You got lost. So this is a pickup file. I posted a link earlier. This is a continuation of this scene. It was spreading, growing, kind of propagation of these plants. But yeah, sorry if I was moving too quickly or skipped over some stuff. Everything is a full chaos mode stream today with changing over this setup. Change quality on the stream. Yeah, I didn't do anything different. It might just be because I switched to Streamlabs OBS. Or maybe their broadcast mechanism is better. An unintended fix. So RH2, you're saying maybe low count for big ones, high count for smaller ones. I'm not sure with what respect you were saying for that. But yeah, I'm doing P scale right now to change randomly all of them. You also can just do a global scale with this, so it works as well as like just to change your overall amplitude of everything. 2 layers of plants. Yeah, that could be cool. Like different models or different numbers of branches and stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure why the viewport is like flickering a little bit. Whoops. Let's get back. There it is, all the weeds. Yeah, it should be cool. I'm still kind of looking into the best way to optimize everything, but it seems pretty promising. We no longer need this unpack. This is going to be super slow. But yeah, it's definitely a lot faster than it was a few weeks ago when we did things the first time. Can just get rid of this other stuff as well. Using the variant on the copy swap? Yeah, I think we could do it. So yeah, this is a bit of a combination with just getting rid of some of the extra clutter. But yeah, this is a bit of a variation of the grain tutorial I did, was doing the variant attribute. So the copy swap has this piece attribute that by default they call it variant. And it will basically, if you add multiple primitives to this copy swap, you can use this variant to switch between them. So just as a layman, a simple visualization or example, let me start with a sphere, maybe a box, and a cone. You just go set the top to 0 to make it a pyramid. All right, we have the primitives, and then just gonna merge them all together. So when I merge them, I have 8 primitives right now. So that's an issue with the copy to points. Basically, I have some different data types here. I have a sphere data type, polygons that's constructing the box, and then a tube data type. So the box is made out of 6 polygons, and it's a bit of an issue. So usually what I'll do is just add the pack. So this kind of unifies everything. So now we're just dealing with 3 primitives or 3 packed geos. And then if I feed them in to the copy sub, whoops. All right. So they're all overlapping and they're all pretty big. If we want, instead, we can use this variant attribute. And if we just, to demo it or to see what's going on with it quickly, I'm just gonna make it, initialize it, variant. You just need to make sure your type is integer, and then you can see everything now is switched to 0, or the index, variant index 0. And if I change that, you would see we're switching 0, 1, and 2. So based off of this attribute, you can switch or influence what will be copied onto these points. So the example or the comparison I made in the grains tutorial is like if you think of these copy to points attributes as like a bunch of shipping labels, you have a bunch of metadata that will influence what gets placed where. So it's very much just like shipping labels or logistics or something like that. This is like the address or the 3D coordinate you're going to put your instance in. The variant will say what will get copied from 0, 1, or 2. And then as well, p-scales like the size or the weight of your package. You got your up, this side up for a label. Colors and all that fancy stuff. So for right now, I'm just going to go really small with the p-scale, just so you can see these a bit better. And then instead of this variant being manually set. Good analogy with the shipping labels. Thank you. Yeah, I'm still working on it, but it seems to be a useful one. So I was thinking about doing it as explaining it as like metadata for an MP3, like you have your genre and all that stuff, and then I realized like nobody's even uses MP3s or refers to music stuff as files anymore. It's like all on the cloud, so it was not a very worthwhile analogy anymore. So with this variant, instead of doing it manually, like this, we can as well set it using the attribute randomize. So if I do this, we want it to be no metadata on vinyl records. Not as much, for sure. Sometimes they did do on vinyl records, like I've seen they scratch stuff into the center of it, like it's more of just notes or something, but maybe like where it was pressed or something. So yeah, this, we want it to be variant, and we're doing a uniformly random number. Vinyl record zoetropes. I haven't seen them. What is it? How do you make this? Design trope. This is really cool. This is like a Star Wars UI, like the Death Star tracking thing. For what whoever made this, the weed plant branding, it's like kind of turned into a cursed. Like if you wear a shirt with a weed leaf on it, you just become a cursed. It's like cursed branding. All right, we'll get back to this. So right now with this variant, the attribute randomize will always, it makes things as a float attribute. So we have decimals, meant to see rotating at 33 rotations per minute. So this causes an issue for the copy swap. If we take this and put it in, you can see that the copy swap is throwing an error or a exclamation mark. So it's saying that this variant attribute is a floating point attribute, and it wants it to be an integer or string attribute, so it's being ignored. So that happens basically because there is decimals or fractions to it. There's a floating point. So it's saying, you're asking me to generate copy variant 0.326, and that's like something in between these two. And it doesn't have a mechanism to select between them. So you just do attribute cast, and then this, you can change the precision or the data type of your attributes. So we could go to a 32-bit integer with it. And we just want to specify with variant. So now what that does is it's basically rounds the numbers to the nearest integer. Oops, let me get this Windows sorted out. You can see 0.916 whatever becomes 1. 0.326 becomes 0. If it's less than 0.5, it becomes 0. If it's greater, it becomes 1. But now the disadvantage is we're not including variant number 2, or the highest number of them. So you could go up here and set your global scale to 2. Now you have all the copies. Another thing that I'll do sometimes is if you just do a null node, and then this is all variants. Then with your copy node, you can make a spare input and link your null, point it to that. You'd see this link kind of thing becomes drawn, the purple wire. And then if you just do n prims, -1, -1 is the shortcut for using this spare input. And then you just need to make sure to subtract 1 from it, because we're starting counting our variants at 0. So even though we have 3 variants, we want the random numbers to go from 0, 1, and 2. So hopefully that kind of makes sense, somewhat makes sense. But this way you could just keep adding more variants, and your expressions will always make sure you're including all of them. So here, if we go back, instead of a tube, maybe we want instead of a cone, we want a tube. Can merge it in, and then without having to go in and change that number, you can see we're getting some tubes, some cones, boxes, and spheres. I want donut torus as well. Just make sure it's being packed. And we get some donuts as well. So the reason we're packing again is to make sure instead of 288 polygons, it just becomes one packed, or one, instead of all these primitives, we want it to be one primitive. And then the variant is able to select between your different things. You have to be careful, because like if you just do a single thing that isn't packed, you can see then it's just grabbing individual faces of the thing instead of packed primitives or whatever. So yeah, we can repurpose this now and generate, instead of little geometric funky shapes, we can just make different plants and switch between them, I believe. Would you use the same packing technique to have a variation of different element used in a sim? For example, debris blowing in the wind. You can. It depends pretty deeply on your actual setup. Like, so if you're doing packed primitives, you just before you initialize your sim, you would just start it kind of like this. So like, these are all the things. They're already packed. Like if I just did assemble, we don't need to pack them because they're, like I said, they're already packed, but we're using this assemble to name them. So it adds this name primitive attribute for different pieces, like debris pieces that you would blow in the wind. And then if you might even be able to do it with like the simple solver. Where did it go? RBD bullet solver. Like you could probably just do attribute randomize V to initialize velocities. Maybe directions. I don't know. This node isn't happy with me right now. So add the ground plane. It was making some debris. I don't know. I don't know why it's not keeping all of them. I think I messed up the, this thing is changing over time. That was my mistake. So yeah, if I just did a time shift, you can make a static frame with it. We'll just do maybe frame 127, something near the end. And then all of these would be like debris pieces. You could blow them in the wind or something like that. I might have done too many. It might be too slow with this. Let's see. Sometimes just the first frame is really slow to simulate because it's like building all the collisions, but I think I've done too many. We'll just go to an earlier frame. Maybe 15. So if you're doing packed debris, or like a packed RBD sim for your debris, you would use the variant like this. The other option would be if you're doing a particle simulation, like then you would do more of like the grain tutorial workflow I did, where you do your particle simulation and then post sim, you just randomly generate variants and assign them to select your debris type. But this, you would actually like update your collision information. All right. We'll just name this stuff. Yeah, it's a good question. It's cool to think about. I didn't even think about really doing that, but super simple. These simple nodes that Side Effects is making. You need to use less and less nodes. A lot of stuff can be set up really quickly and just tried out relatively easily. It's pretty fun. Side Effects is gonna run us all out of jobs. It's gonna get too easy to use the software. All right. So here we're just cast variant float to int. The artist SOP. This is kind of like the machine learning is the artist's op. It will replace the artist. Node trees from scene descriptions. Pseudocode that just generates a hip file. You just say, make this. To make it look sexy, so. All right. You guys want to start the Luddite revolution? The Luddite revolution was kind of the original fear of machine learning, where it was like they destroyed these stocking frames. It was like weaving machines. It was like the original machines that were stealing their jobs. It was these workers used to be this artisan skill to weave these textiles, and then they were being replaced by these spinning jennies or whatever. Then I think that, what was that, written somewhere? They locked them all up and sent them all to Australia. All right, so we have the packed disk. We're just doing a single plant right now. And because we just spent a bunch of time building this variance, we have the ability now to just generate multiple plants and switch between them using that same variant attribute. So let's just hold down the Alt button, click and drag to make a copy of this. It's only a matter of time. It's kind of like the smashing of the 5G towers right now. It's the modern day Luddites. They're putting antennas in my tower. So with this copy, what I can do is just use this like a quick tool. Should have become a history teacher. You just get it's just all in one. It's the computer graphics world history. It's kind of all connected, right? Interesting, like if you look at this, the way that this plant stuff grew. You ever look up the Stafford Beer, the viable system model? This was like his algorithmic governance model or something like that. But yeah, I mean, everything's kind of related. It just, I feel like art is just more fun to do and teach. So what I'm doing with this one, just changing some of these parameters so we could have different styles of plants. Maybe if you make a lot more points, you get like a bushier or just more detailed plant. Do maybe different stuff with the plexus. This is kind of interesting here, right? All right. So I should be able to just keep going kind of like this. Because I'm using this $OS, I can just leave the file name the same and it will update automatically. Save to disk. I think it worked. So now in my geometry folder, let me just, I was being silly and I generated that file name by mistake. Let me just get rid of it. I'm just going to delete that wrap geometry folder. Let's see if it's gone. All right, nice and organized. So we have plant 1 and plant 2. And And then we can use our variant attribute now to switch between our two plant styles, or our two plant shapes. So if we just merge these, we have our two packed disk sequences, and then we can put this into the all variants. And this, everything is connected here. So our attribute, number of variants we're randomly selecting gets updated automatically to just one. That actually is switching between 0 and 1. So it's a little misleading because you think it's just saying generate one random variant, but it's basically saying give me random numbers between 0 and 1. And then the last thing I think, with these, I haven't updated the expression properly, but I think there's a better way to do this, maybe using the file merge node. So this is another asset or node that side effects made. It's basically lets you load many things at the same time. So I think I can just copy this expression, paste it. And then this merge variable is saying basically slice is the variable it will use to load many sequences or many caches at the same time. So I've set up my plants. They start with 0 and then it's 1, 2, whatever. So this is like 2, 0. The 0 padding or whatever is like 2 digits. So if you use hscript, you can do pad 0. And this way, you can do like the first argument is the 0 padding you want to use, and then the next argument is the actual number. So if I do 2 and 1, then 2 is saying pad it with 2 digits, and 1 is saying to the actual number to output. And then this slice is the merge or the cache variable. So if I just do $slice, then this will load both of those plants, or however many range of plants I've generated. So we have them. I think I just want this to be packed disk. Oh no, they don't let me do it. I think they haven't updated it, so I'll just have to do allow editing of contents. Go into here and load, just delete that channel, set it to pack disk. Oh no! All right, so maybe that's why they didn't want to. They didn't want me tampering with it. Got lost in the sauce. Doing too much. Yeah, I don't know. It might be too many expressions or something. I'll have to email them about the bug or the error or whatever. Hasmiri, thank you for the Twitch Prime. Let's go. Isaac from Discord. Thanks for coming in and subscribing. Sorry, I crashed right before the sub. Bit of a letdown there. So we're just gonna put this file back into the working directory. Just go up another version. And yeah, I think it just seems like using expressions, complicated expressions, are crashing the packed disk sequence loading right now. I'm trying to think of the best way to work around that. So if I just match this to the current definition, then we won't be crashing anymore. We'll still be loading. But match current definition is basically saying like revert to the defined asset, like blow away any work I've done inside of it and go back to the factory model or the standard settings. So maybe instead of all geometry, if I just do packed disk, ooh, still doesn't like it. The Luddites are in my computer, crashing my my Houdini sessions. All right. Let's get back to the file. So we'll just go match current definition again. Maybe just set this file merge node aside and just bypass it for right now. So I'm just gonna keep going this way and just update this by hand. See if it works. So you have the two different plant styles, and they are growing over time. It does look like when I did this match size right here, it's trying to center, or it's not centering this plant, the root of it very well. Because I have named everything, or I did sort, like 0.0 is the starting point, or the root point. I think I can just do a quick bit of wrangle to fix that. So you just do at P, the point position, minus equals to subtract from itself. 0.0 will be the input geometry, P position, and then point number 0, or the root point. And then you can see it snaps it to the origin. So I'm basically offsetting it by the position coordinate of the root position, and then you'll always know that it will be at the origin. We'll just do move root point to origin. Should probably do this for the other one as well, just to make sure when I'm growing these, they're centered at the origin. You could highlight this, save, just to update both of them. And let's see now. Just highlight both of these, reload cache, reload geometry to update them. Now we have them centered at the same position. Fire! He's heating up! He's on fire! Let's see if it works. Something happened. So I think I need to realign these. I did end up shrinking this P scale value because I was using these other variants that were a different size. But now it looks like we do have them at different sizes. I think if you wanted to do something like specific to a variant, like then you could start doing wrangles maybe. So group, you can group based off of make a kind of like ad hoc on the fly group using this at variant equals 0. Just make sure this is a point group. Maybe just try P scale times equals 25. So make it 25 times bigger if it's the variant 0. Whoa, it worked. Let's see if it works the other way around. Cool. So maybe 25 is too big. But yeah, this would be one way to make modifications specific to a variant or a range of variants or whatever, updating things like that. Maybe I want it just half as big. Oof. So I think everything's flickering right now because I'm doing stuff based off of the point number, which is changing as things are growing or spreading across the rock. So I think the easiest way to fix that is to do this step at the very end. If I wanted to, I could also make an ID attribute. And then if you specify that as the seed for these random number generators, you'd be in good shape. But this is just a quicker way to fix that issue. Let's get back into the camera. 2-second snap decision. Yeah, it's sometimes it gets you. Sometimes you choose poorly. It's like the Indiana Jones. You make the wrong decision. You sip from the wrong chalice. Your face melts. All right. So it looks like the clipping plane of this camera is too far. So I just go here, just make it closer in. That should fix that problem. Okay. So I think some of that flickering gets caused if this age number, because it's doing things based off of the index. So when the age number becomes 1, the index number will become 24. The intrinsic, I think that's what causes them to flicker or jitter or whatever. Basically because this mode here is like, I don't know if the sequence becomes out of range, it messes up. But I think if you just do something very close to 24, 23.999, it's still happening. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know let's see it without updating that intrinsic. Yeah, it might just be a viewport issue. Let's see what happens if we try to render these. Save it again. So my Redshift object, have it set to do SOP level packed primitives. I'm going to see if it will work with Redshift. Something's working. Looks like some things down here are a bit different. Lucasfilm in the 1990s. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all the way into to rendering. I might have to do some more research before moving to that step. Let me see what happens, maybe just trying one variant. possibility is, yeah, it's starting to become like, I don't know, the moving into real time is really exciting. Getting as close as possible to those workflows. Just becoming, I guess, more artist friendly, or just makes working on this stuff more enjoyable. No longer having to wait a week for a particle simulation. Like seeing some of the old Toy Story workflows or documentaries or whatever, like I think with lighting the original Toy Story, they were just basically editing text files, like moving lights around and rotating them. They would just have to go in and like type in a new coordinate or whatever. All right, so yeah, I don't know if this number is just getting too big. They spent a month rendering the CGI. Yeah, it's like super exciting to see like photorealistic results being able to be achieved more quickly, with less waiting, more exciting. Maybe it's just the ones that are like super small. It's causing an issue with this P scale. Could set 0 or the bottom range, maybe just to 0.4. So instead of letting some of them have a scale of 0, we're making sure the minimum is 0.4. That might have been what was throwing things off. I don't know, it looks like the viewport's trying to do some like out of camera frustum LOD optimization or something. Maybe it's too much. The new plant I added is like too much geometry. But yeah, I think this is pretty promising still. We'll just keep kind of cleaning this up. So I'm just gonna go and update the display setting for this rock. Move it into another geometry. Just organize the scene a little bit better, and probably get close to wrapping things up for today. So this is going to be plant growth. This one will be rock. I can just do object merge. Gonna get the rock. And I think it has some textures with it. So instead of this checkerboard, if I just look in that same file, textures, specular metalness. All right. I guess they're just saying those were the two different workflows of shading. So just get this albedo. I don't know why they're calling this the specular color. I don't know. It's super confusing. So yeah, I think the viewport is doing a bit of downsampling or down resing of the texture. See if we turn off the limit. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it too much right now. But yeah, this is starting to be pretty promising. I feel like it's super responsive. If we want to add more plants, really cover this thing with fur. Maybe I'll stop doing this. Boosh. And just my overall P scale, I'm gonna make that smaller. It's like a super detailed, a mighty boosh. But yeah, so this is starting to be pretty interesting. Like, I don't know, even the viewport wireframe style lends itself pretty well to that kind of like hairy white algae, or I don't know, fungi. But yeah, so I think I can do another stab maybe at the growth process. You can visualize stuff pretty well with the color here. And then using this noise, maybe smaller element size. You can see the more you distort it, it kind of starts to skip areas. So I don't know how into that I am. It kind of starts to look a little bit too much like a fantasy. And then maybe, oh, I know what happened. I think why things were flickering. Maybe, I don't know, I thought it had to do with this, but I guess not. But yeah, I think I can just divide the time by a number. Like 4 times as slow, or divided by 4. So that this growth stuff just happens, the transition or whatever happens more slowly. I don't know the bandwidth. That was like, you'd see here, it should be how, I guess I'm not using the variable anymore. How many billions of polygons is this? You could do the calculation in a second. So I don't know this distance. Let's try multiplying it. I don't know, I think this could be cool. I haven't set this up to be that user-friendly. I'm gonna get rid of that bandwidth variable as well because I'm not using it. How many billions of polygons is this? So our 2 plants, I'm just 34 polygons, 103. It's just kind of somewhat split the difference and just say each plant is made up of 50 polygons, is like a more conservative estimate. And then we have 288. I guess at the end we'll have 4270000. A metric fuckton. Let's take a look. Oh no, my Python, it's not installed. Just do it here. So that times, we're just estimating 50. And there's like 21 million, it looks like. 21, maybe like 25 million, if depending on which plant, which density of plant or whatever is being used. Let's see. Let's do a flipbook and see what happens. What the hell is happening here with my Python? RTX. Is it hopefully Redshift? Imagine being able to do this with like Redshift RT. getting this nice quality. Polywire will boost that number. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the viewport is doing some culling or flickering, like causing the flickering. It still is a little glitchy, but it's definitely much faster than the Alembics method. But yeah, I feel like this is the way to go. It's starting to be the way to go. We still need to figure out some of the issues. But yeah, I think it's pretty interesting because just being able to preview and manipulate this as art directable as possible could really make like a cool camera animation, depth of field moving around and stuff like that. But yeah, it's weird how this stuff is just like only the ones near the edges seem to flicker the most. Maybe my GPU is fried. Vellum hair. Yeah, so I think if you were to do vellum, you would need to do it like up here, basically add a vellum, because everything you do after you read them in is packed disk sequence. You can't like deform or manipulate them, aside from changing the frame, like loading a different frame. 25 million seconds is 275 years. So yeah, if you did, let me turn off the other objects. Like basically if you were to add, turn this grow process into a vellum sim, that could be cool. Or even add some, keep going with the frame number to change, what do you call? Like a target constraint or a target pin or whatever, so that they're seeking the position, kind of wiggling around, getting some seaweed action or something like that. The other thing, I don't know, so yeah, I might look into this some more off stream to try to polish it. I think maybe just going like into Vex to modify more of these intrinsics could be the way to go. A time-lapse growing sim. I guess so, yeah, I'm trying to think. Oh, it could be, yeah, it could be. Well, you could also do some interesting kind of decay stuff with it. Like shrinking or destroying geometry using this method, like kind of reverse this, but I don't know if you're doing it with like something shriveling up or crinkling or something like that, you get some interesting results. But yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it here for today. Interesting watching how plants seem to breathe. Yeah, I've watched time lapses before of just like a green kind of plant, but it's interesting, like the leaves will droop at night, like they're sleeping or something like that, and then during the day they'll perk back up and angle themselves toward the sun or whatever. Hydroponic. You guys ever do music for plants? This is like a really old record. Where did it go? This one, Plantasia. So they made this record for, the intention was to play. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's nice synths and stuff in it. But yeah, I think the scientists and stuff have done studies of like plants react differently to different audio signals or different stuff going on or whatever. So just organize this file a little bit and kind of wrap things up here. So we're no longer updating ABC frame. Now we're updating the packed sequence index intrinsic. This one we're just cleaning up extra attributes. So yeah, again, this hack is kind of a hack or a trick or whatever. Basically, anything that hasn't started growing yet, just delete it or turn it off or whatever, just to kind of speed up so we're not making as much geometry. This one is basically specific code per variant. So if you wanted to like single out a specific style of plant and modify it or adjust its appearance in some way. So let's just say add, maybe distort growth animation. You going to be back on Wednesday? Yes, I should be back on Wednesday. I should be back with a higher quality cable, and maybe being able to reboot into Windows and stuff like that. One of the things I'm thinking about doing eventually is, seemed to work okay today. Yeah, it was working okay, but like I'm basically doing stuff in a super scuffed way for streaming. So I have these windows like stacked. Like I have three displays connected to the graphics card, and then I'm doing this to mirror this display to the capture card. I ordered a new cable that isn't 60 hertz. Basically the issue that this causes is if I reboot, like on Windows, you don't have as much control over your displays this way. But yeah, I'm trying to fix things so I could get into Windows. And what I eventually want to do is like a fluid sim explosion master comparison. So do a side by side of like the Houdini sparse solver, Houdini OpenCL non-sparse solver, Axiom, and Embergen. So we need to do Windows for Embergen and some stuff, but I want to do like a comparison of all those different methods. Eventually, we'll get there. So yeah, I'll look into some ways to optimize or maybe fix some of the glitches in this setup. Let me know if I get the lab coat ready, get the spreadsheets, the clipboards out. Should get rid of that extra stuff as well. But yeah, let me know if you find any workarounds for some of the issues I was having with the attributes or the glitches or whatever. I'll put the file on Discord, but I think it's still pretty promising so far. All right, yeah, we'll be back Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, the start of the week. Take it easy.